Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maximo and I'm here checking out Asphalt Injection. Funnily enough, it doesn't have a press start screen, it just goes straight into the menu. You might be wondering, what the fuck am I doing covering this one of all things? Like, surely there's a bunch of other games that I could be checking out right now that would be better than this one. And you are right, mainly because I've got all of these that I still need to cover, and I haven't gotten around to covering them yet. But I do have a good reason for covering Asphalt Injection, and that is, see how that's a cartridge slot for Asphalt Injection up in the top right? Yeah, I have a cartridge of this, and I have a pile of games that are cartridges that I'm yet to cover and cartridges I've already covered, and I'm just, this one being here when I could easily just hop right in and get it done, just, it triggers my OCD. I have a little bit of OCD because I'm autistic, so that happens a fair bit. So we're going to go and have a look at it now. Won't spend too long on it. I just need something to keep you guys tided over until Valkyrie Drive, Dragon Quest Builders, and Castle Invasion thrown out all get videos. So we'll just go have a look around. You can come here to change your sound volumes, obviously. You've got a lot of different controls here. The only one that's really worth using is the classic, or possibly classic manual if you feel like it, but even then it uses the rear touchpad, and screw that. But you've got a fair few options here, which is kind of nice. So we'll be just sticking with classic because, you know, that's the best sort of control style. Can change a few things about the camera, which is kind of nice, and the speed unit and the minimap, and privacy and language, of course. Just some regular stuff. Your profile, not much to see here, just stats. You can change your name too for some reason. You've got online multiplayer, but considering this is one of those sorts of games where you have to take along the car you've got, so if someone's ahead of you, they'll just breeze right past you, then, yeah, not really worth the effort, is it? We can go to the garage to get this weird, like, 3D view of our cars going, and there's also this weird thing where the motion sensor controls the camera. Notably, it's actually relatively stable for a motion sensor, but again, it's motion sensor. So there's no real point. Just because you can do much better with the analog stick. And you can go have a look at the cars in 3D. And I'll give the game credit. For a Vita game from 2012, like this came out 2012 on the launch week of the Vita, it looks pretty nice. Like, seriously, they've done a fairly good job with making this game look palatable. Sure, there's a few jaggies here and there when you get a decent distance from anything, but honestly, I am nowhere near insulted by how this game looks. It actually looks pretty good. All things considered, it looks pretty good. Now, you've got two options. You've got career and free race, and you can race all the different kinds of races in career and free race. So I'll just go and have a look at free race first, because I can show you how many tracks there are. There's a fair few, actually, all things considered. Like, there's a couple of reloaded ones, which I imagine are ones from previous, what's it called? Asphalt games, because, oh, no, I'm wrong. There's Rio there. Rio's number 14, because I'm an idiot. So I guess these are just, like, remastered tracks, but still. 15 unique tracks isn't that bad for a game like this, especially when sometimes they can be played backwards, but nevertheless. You've got 10 different modes in this game, and a lot of them are fairly similar, so I'll just go over what they are. You've got your normal race, your elimination, which is take out as many people as possible as your road rage mode. Time attack, which is just, you know, get the highest time, the lowest time possible. Duel, which is one-on-one. Under pressure, which is get to the end while being avoided, while avoiding the people trying to kill you. Beat 'em all. Collector, which is you just try and get the little symbols on the track as fast as possible while trying to keep other people from doing it. Drifting, which obviously, under destruction, which is run through everything, and cop chase, which is pretty self-explanatory. There's a lot of modes, and they do add a lot of variety to the game, which is quite nice. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're just going to play some regular stuff. And we can select our car, and there's a bunch of different cars that you can earn, and they're all licensed, which is pretty neat. And you earn money in-game, and you use this to buy new cars, and you need to earn stars in the campaign mode in order to buy new cars. which means you can have 1.1 million in the bank like I do, which is enough to buy some of the best cars in the entire game. But you can't get them until you get a ridiculous amount of stars, which is quite unfortunate, really, because this is what the Asphalt series has always been one of those sorts of games where it's been ridiculously satisfying to get the best car possible as soon as possible, but you just can't do that in this one. But why you think, what would you know about the Asphalt series? Why have you played such a crappy series? Well, I actually loved Asphalt 2 on the DS, which is kind of funny because I don't remember anything about that game except it's got a song called Lift Me Up, but I think it was called Moby, and that's the only thing I remember about that game, despite the fact I finished it and I remember loving it. So who knows? But let's actually get into a race here. Loading times aren't fantastic, but when the game, if you fail and you need to restart, it'll do it immediately. It won't cut to a loading screen or anything, which is nice. You might think I'm gonna be speaking nothing but positives about this game. Just you fucking wait. So you get this little course flyover overview here, which is, again, it's nice. It shows off what the game looks like. And sure, some of the tracks are absolutely ridiculous and nowhere near realistic. But to be fair, the game isn't either, so I'm not gonna argue too heavily against it. It looks nice. Like, I mean, a little bit of a lack of detail in the entire backgrounds there, but I mean, I'm not gonna argue too heavily against that. It looks nice. It really does. So anyway, away we go. We've got the R button to accelerate, L to brake, and we've got a boost meter going up the top there, and the boost meter fills whenever you do something. So for example, if I drift here, I get an absolute ton of boost, and I can also fill up my boost by picking up these things. And when the boost meter is full, you get adrenaline, and adrenaline is just a really extended boost. If you use a boost while you don't have adrenaline mode, and if you've got enough, it'll just take off a small bit of the bar. You can boost up to 3 times, and that's your lot, basically. So the idea is that you're meant to try and do things like drifting and taking out opponents like that, because adrenaline basically makes you invincible. You're basically meant to do that in order to take out opponents. You can also take them out normally, but the problem with this game's physics engine is that all the cars stick to the track like fucking super glue. It's ridiculous. Like, I mean, sure, turning is a bit, it's a bit odd, but not too bad. And drifting doesn't work at all because you lose an absolute ton of speed when you start drifting. So you need to do, basically there's no real point in drifting unless you need to do it for one of the game's race objectives, because every race has a couple of objectives to do, which in this case is get 1,000 something drift points and get 4 knockdowns, and I just got 3, so it's not like it matters. But when you actually try to slam into other cars, it just feels like they're completely stuck to the road. And the only real way you can, like, get a decent knockdown going is if you run into someone while you're in adrenaline mode, for example. It's kind of disappointing, honestly, because the game's physics engine is almost there, but it just misses the mark. It's funny though, the game Burnout Legends on PSP actually had a way better physics engine. Cars moved around way more, well, I'm not going to say realistically, but it reacted more like you would expect it to, which is so much better. And it's kind of disappointing, honestly. Now, the major problem that the game's racing has is, I mean, the car knockdown stuff you can kind of get around, and again, when you start boosting, cars are a lot more likely to start, like, falling over and dying, right? But this game's major problem is its AI. Its AI is fucking ridiculous. It can keep up with you while you're in adrenaline mode, despite the fact that the cars that the game selects for every event, no matter what event it is, are completely and utterly, like, they're around your level. They're always around your level. So no matter what you're doing, and no matter what they're doing, they can always catch up to you and they can always get ahead of you. They start out every race by getting really far ahead of you, and then they can catch up to you. And see how they somehow manage to get faster for a couple of seconds while you're in adrenaline mode until you can start catching up to them? They do this all the freaking time, and it's the most frustrating thing in the goddamn world when one of them catches up from behind you, despite the fact you were literally adrenaline-ing, boosting, over until like half a second before the finish line. Then they just swing in front of you and you lose the race. That happens a lot, and it's fucking infuriating. Honest to God, it is one of the worst fucking things. Sure, modern day races like this have a problem with rubber banding, but that doesn't mean that it, well, isn't a problem. And they just do this constantly. Like, I'm going at 300 kph, and all the other cars behind me are just catching up to me constantly. And even when I do, like, use adrenaline, they all just catch up again. Like, there's no benefit. The word I'm not looking for is benefit. There's no, like, actively feeling like that you are capable of, like, you know, actually getting a good leg up on the enemy AI by driving well. And that's probably one of the biggest problems with most racing games that have rubber banding. It just doesn't feel like you can drive well enough to the point where you can get ahead. And the game exacerbates this because it decides to put enemy AI on the track that's around the same level you are, even in the beginner events. So if you go back to one of the first events you did where the enemy cars do something along the lines of, have like 150, 200 kph speed cars, and you bring along like a 350 kph speed car, they'll still replace those cars with cars around your level. So you can't, like, have the satisfying feeling of, I just went to the next event by accident, and it's a fucking time attack, because of course it is. I'll exit out of this once I do, but yeah, you don't get the satisfaction of being able to go back and absolutely whoop the AI's ass. Which is the most disappointing thing in the world. It really is. It's just, I know it's such a minor thing, but at the same time, it feels like they just wanted to keep challenge, which is fine, but at the same time, if you wanted to keep it challenge, you'd be playing the later events.
3, 2,
It is just really disappointing, honestly. They really could have done with fixing that. So, and considering that the rest of the game's physics engine isn't great to begin with anyway, I don't know why it defaults to free race. It really should default to career, but who am I to complain? Let's see, we've got Beat 'em all and we've got Collector. I'm not going to do Collector because Collector is fucking infuriating. Because again, with the rubber banding AI, they'll just swing ahead of you and collect the shit before you can even get near it. Let's do Elimination. Why not? And we'll stick with the same car. You can buy upgrades for your cars that you're using that give you just, like, small advantages, but it's not really worth it, especially since with the basic cars that you've got, you'll be able to just win enough races in order to unlock new cars that have overly better stats. So I don't really see the point in that. You can also have a sponsorship that unlock at specific points throughout the campaign that give you, like, bonus stats, like you'll earn like 5% extra money, or your acceleration will be a little bit improved, or stuff like that. But it's not really that noticeable a difference.
3, 2, 1.
So yeah, Elimination, pretty simple, really. The clock counts down, and if the last person gets eliminated once it hits 0. I'll go and play a free race to make sure that I can actually, like, do something interesting after this. If they just improve the physics engine and, like, see, look at that. Adrenaline boosting, and he still manages to stay ahead of me. Because that's just kind of infuriating, honestly. Oh, shit. Also, the AI is a bit of a dumbass sometimes, like you saw that. The AI was just stuck there in the freaking corner. Better adrenaline. Like, see how I... Whoops. Ah, fuck. Ah, that ain't good. But did you see how I tapped against that guy and he basically just, like, stayed there? Yeah, there are tons of other driving games which are way more satisfying in this regard. Just on the Vita alone. Like, Need for Speed Most Wanted came out a few months after this and it basically completely removed every reason you could possibly have for wanting to own this game. So, it really is just disappointing, honestly. Like, the physics in this game really haven't changed since Asphalt 2 on the DS, which is kind of hilarious when you think about it, since the game's still rocking freaking DS physics of all things. If they had made the car combat just a little more exciting by not having the cars freaking stick to the road all the time, and if they had made, like, the AI not rubber band as much and maybe make it so that the tiers of races were more set out so that you could go back and absolutely whoop the ass of easier AI, that would be great. But just at the moment, and considering that you have to, like, you know, actively slow down in order to actively drift, it makes the game way more unsatisfying than it really needs to be. Which is, Christ almighty, I hate that. Just tap the front of an oncoming car and you die. That's basically how that works. I need to boost, otherwise I'm never going to catch up to this guy. And I'm probably still not going to be able to, because I've only got 10 seconds, and the rubber banding AI in this game just loves to fuck with you. I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but I'll roll with it. It's almost a really good game. Almost. And considering how well it actually runs, it's just, it really is a shame. Really. That's kind of the problem with all Game Loft games. They're that close to being good. That close. But there's just a couple of things that they could easily fix that they just don't. And it just kind of sucks. Yeah, and apparently I get this car, but the thing about this car is that it probably costs like $1 million something bucks and isn't worth the effort to upgrade to. Just because that's the thing. Like, all the Lamborghini... Like, the cars seem to have realistic prices, more or less. But, it's just weird, honestly. Like, I'm pretty sure I can get a decent event going here. No, I'll just go back to free race. What's a track I haven't played on yet? Well, we were going to do Tokyo in the time attack, but it just didn't happen. So, right, so let's play Cop Chase. Why not? It's so close to being a good game. It's so close. But it's just a couple of things that make it piddlingly average. And that's disappointing more than anything else. An average game is more disappointing than a bad game, because at least with an average game, you can see where they went wrong, and you can see just how it could have been fixed to be a really good game, but... yeah. We don't even really have, like, a full-on Burnout game, and if they had tweaked the physics engine so that the cars, you know, like, actually don't stick to the ground when you run into them, unless you've got Boost on, which turns you into a freaking Adonis of cars... it could have worked really well, and it could have been great, but it's a freaking, Game Loft game. What do you expect, really? So yeah, Cop Chase is about what you expect. Like, every mode in this game is about what you expect it to be. But considering that there's so many different kinds of modes and all that, like, did you see how I picked up that thing and I'd gotten to, like, 370 something miles an hour and I was still... like, basically, the car was still basically hard rooted to the road. You have to boost. Like, you do not have a choice in the matter. You have to boost. There's also that announcer lady in the background, and... Wow! Okay, I did not see that coming. Jesus. Like, you can see him on the minimap, sure, but, I mean, good lord. So that actually worked okay, but that's like the only time it'll ever work.
Excuse me.
Also quite annoyingly is that the little kill cam there, like, in Burnout, this happens in Burnout and stuff too, where the game takes control of your car while the crash cam is going. But the annoying thing about this game compared to Burnout is that there's shit on the track you might actually want to get, and the AI tends to actively move you away from that, which is shit. Also, I don't know how I didn't get crashed there. As I said, physics engine in this game, really fucking weird. Out of my way, pig. Honestly, playing this game just makes me want to play Burnout Legends again. That game was fucking great. Like, it has all the modes this game has, more or less. I mean, there's a couple missing. Like, you don't have that stupid collector mode, and you don't have the, you don't have a drifting mode for obvious reasons, and, yeah. I mean, if you can pick up Burnout Legends on PSP, and freaking, if you can pick up Burnout Legends on PSP and, like, transfer it over from the PlayStation 3, that is way more worth your time than this game is. Way more. Like, ridiculously more. I always end up coming down here for some reason. It appears that the announcer lady agrees with me on my thoughts about the cops trying to catch me, so, you know, whatever. I could swear I remember boosting being a lot more satisfying in the previous Asphalt games. Like, what Asphalt games have I played? I've played Asphalt 2 on DS. I've played Asphalt 4 on the DSi. Yes, the DSi, because they actually gave you, like, they gave you enough free money to buy a couple of games on the DSi whenever you bought it, so I actually ended up buying Asphalt 4. And there were, like, no good games on DSi, like, none. Like, the only thing that was any good on the DSi was, like, the Petite Computer thing. And Petite Computer actually got a release on 3DS store as, what was it called? Smile Computer? Smile Basic, sorry, Smile Basic. And that thing's fucking great. The rest are shit. And then I played Asphalt 5 on the iPod. Then, yeah, Asphalt 6, 7, and 8 all came out on Android. There was also Asphalt 3D on the 3DS, but that game was mortifyingly bad, even for an Asphalt game, so, yeah. I play a lot of shit. Could you not tell? Then again, I play every game that is on the Vita, so, you know, you're gonna have to come across a few stinkers sometime, aren't you? But yeah, that was a look at Asphalt Injection. Not worth it. Not really. Seriously, like, every other racing game on the Vita, except maybe Ridge Racer Vita, is better than this. Speaking of Ridge Racer Vita, I still need to get that. I don't think I've ever played that game, which is kind of funny, because I've played almost everything else on the Vita. But that's, like, the one game I've actively avoided. So, you know, I'll have to take that out. I'll have to take that on at some point. But for now, this has been Blue Maxima, and I'll see you all next time.